Hey everybody, it's me, Colleen Pearl, the Cool Crone, and I'm back for a second video today, Monday, May 12th, whatever day it is. Hello. It's a full moon in Scorpio, so I'm kind of like I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I wanted to do a reading about Donald Trump, a couple of readings actually. One reading is I wanted to find out what is Donald going to do as Putin begins to put pressure on him to side with Russia in this ceasefire / peace talk urging of the EU leaders. So this is kind of a part 2. So to have all that explained, you should watch the first video in which I explained what happened with the EU leaders and what's going on with that. And I also read on a couple of issues surrounding that. And I also want to look at, will Europe immediately put on sanctions and place military personnel in Ukraine? Yowza, that's a huge step. So I want to read on that. But I also want to read another thing on Trump. Is he burning all his bridges? Is he going to burn his bridges with Putin, with NATO, with Elon Musk, with Netanyahu, with Orban, with Xi, with Carney, with the EU? I mean, he is so disruptive that he thinks that he can, insult somebody and burn the bridge and then just turn around and say, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, we can do what you wanted to do in the first place, like with the tariffs, right? But I don't think people forgive that easily. So I'm just curious about, I know it's bad for the U.S., but Trump's not going to be there so long, and once he's gone, then we have phenomenal diplomats who can try to put things back together, although it may take years. It probably will take years. And reconstructing our government and putting things back in place. Maybe things shouldn't go back in place exactly the way they were. Maybe things should be, as we said in the Biden era, built back better. Wouldn't that be a concept that, what about Medicare for all? Hey, Bernie, I'm listening to you. I mean, what about this, what did they call that, where they just send people like $1,000 check every month, just everybody gets at least $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month or something like that. I mean, wouldn't that be spiffy? And what about all the people who lost their jobs? What if they all got their jobs back, if they wanted them back, because a lot of them have already moved to the private sector. Anyway, I'm going on and on and on. Let's get into some readings. So the first thing that I'm going to read about is when they have whatever they have in Istanbul, some sort of a peace talk or discussion or whatever, Putin or his surrogates in Russia are going to put a lot of pressure on Donald Trump to side with them. What is Trump going to do? Because he has been talking with the NATO leaders and EU leaders, and he has been trying to encourage peace between Ukraine and Russia. I don't know how wholeheartedly. I think he just wants the Nobel Peace Prize, and he thinks that if he brings about peace, that'll get him the Peace Prize. He's very pedantic. He's not very deep. But anyway, what will he do? Is he going to turn on Putin, his longtime friend, or what? So let me shuffle the cards and lay them out, and I will bring you in on the deal. So for this reading, I'm showing that he is covered by the Ten of Pentacles and the Two of Pentacles. So the Ten of Pentacles is his legacy, but it's also an ending. Tens are endings. So he is thinking about what he leaves behind, his family, his children, his money, but also his legacy. What he did in life. How is he going to be remembered? This is important to him. And I don't think he wants to be remembered as a Russian asset. I think he wants to be remembered for the guy who brought about peace between Russia and Ukraine. And then we have the Two of Pentacles. And I just did a reading using the Tarot of the Vampire, and in that reading, the Two of Pentacles also came up. It doesn't look at all like this in that deck, but it was saying that this can be a card of transformation. And we see the infinity symbol here in this card. So we have transformation, but also the ending. Ending of his life, maybe? Ending of his relationship with Russia as an asset? I mean, it could be either one of those things. And in fact, the card beneath him is the Eight of Cups, the card of walking away, of turning your back on something. And I'm going to say he may be turning his back on Putin. He may be trying to turn his back on Putin. I'm not so sure anybody can really do that. Now, in the past, we have the Page of Wands. So, he has made announcements himself about the fact that he doubts whether Vladimir really wants peace or not. Well, duh, of course he doesn't want peace. He wants Ukraine. He wants, I'm going to look in the camera here, he wants to have a piece of Ukraine, then he wants more of Ukraine, then more, until he has the whole thing, and then he's going to move on to Poland. So, of course he does not want peace, but Trump is really playing coy and acting like, well, gee, it doesn't sound like he wants to have peace. And I'm sure that, on some sort of naive, immature level, Trump is thinking, God, I know that Putin really doesn't have the money to keep this war up. I know that he's losing men, Ukraine's losing men. They're just not, nobody's benefiting from this war, is what Donald's seeing, that it's a losing transaction, right, in Donald's mind. So he may think that he's helping Putin in some way by trying to stop the war, but he's forgetting about Putin's ego. And Putin is just as big of an ego as Trump. And, so this is not going to go well for them when they start to clash. Now, here we have the Two of Wands crowning him. So Trump is planning a new future. He's looking at things in a new way. What will it be like when I win the Nobel Prize? Will I be thinner? Will I be less old? Will I have more hair? I mean, that's literally, I think, what's going through his brain, because he's an nincompoop, but whatever. Okay, and then in the future for him is the Magician. Now, we all know that he can be a bit of a magician, not a musician, as I almost said. But here he is trying to literally make wine out of water. And that's probably not going to work, but if he thinks it's going to work, then everybody around him is going to tell him, oh yes, master, you did great. You made wine out of water. So Trump may be doing some sort of sleight of hand. He may be doing, whatever his version of art of the deal is. He may try to take credit for whatever they do come up with in Istanbul, or if it's a later discussion, whatever that is. And by the way, I don't think Dumpy's going to Istanbul. I think travel is too hard for him right now. I don't think he's feeling well. So I think he'll be sending Marco Rubio. In fact, I read that Marco Rubio is planning on being in Istanbul, and I really don't think Dumpy's going to be there. So it's interesting that Marco has enough time to do that, in addition to being the Secretary of Defense. So what is Dumpy worried about? Justice. He's worried that he's going to be arrested. That's another reason not to travel for him, because even though Turkey really isn't a part of the International Criminal Court, they keep an eye on it, as they say. And, he's worried. He's worried that, something might happen there. What do other people think? Four of Cups, they think that Trump's just hanging on to all of his money. And he is, all of his crypto money and all of his grift money. He's hanging on to all of that. And he's hanging on to relationships, too. Cups can also represent relationships. And he is trying to hang on to his relationships, although he's doing a pretty bad job of it. And what is up here? We have the Seven of Cups, his illusions and delusions about everything that's going on. And so his ideas about going with the EU and kind of getting out from under Dumpy or Putin is delusional. It's like trying to get out of the mafia. Like, you really can't do it. You just can't do it. But he's going to try, and his final outcome is, interestingly, the Eight of Swords. So not good for Mr. Dumpster. Not good at all. This means that he will find himself in a real pickle. Now, they may, this may not have an impact on whether or not they bring about peace in Ukraine, because I think the EU is really more in charge of that, or the EU leaders, rather, are more in charge of that than Dumpy ever will be. But they needed to include Dumpy so that they don't insult him and he doesn't start, a house on fire on the border of Poland or something, creating another war atmosphere. They really want Dumpy to just kind of go along with their plan, which I don't know why they think that's going to work. Because Dumpy always wants to be the center of attention, and so somehow they have to make him believe that he's going to get credit for this whole thing, so whatever. Anyway, so is Dumpy going to turn on Putin and go with the EU? He's going to try. He's going to try. He's going to try. All right, let's go on to the next reading, which is going to be... will Europe immediately put on sanctions and place military personnel in Ukraine? I'm going to pause and lay out the cards. Okay, I've laid out the cards, and we're talking about, will the EU immediately put sanctions on Russia, and will they put boots on the ground in Ukraine? I'm thinking they will. So here we have the Five of Wands. They're challenging whatever comes back from Russia, from Putin's surrogate or the Kremlin or whoever in Russia is making those decisions. They're challenging it. And of course, Russia, I mean, just the main talking points of Russia, let me get my notes here, is just the exact opposite of what Ukraine wants. So Russia wants, just to reiterate, they want it so that the Ukraine cannot join NATO, they cannot join the EU, and that the West stops arming Ukraine. And Ukraine wants to have a ceasefire immediately. They want to join NATO and the EU, and they don't want any more threats from Russia. And they want the arms coming from the West, so if they're at war, they can defend themselves. So they are as far apart as you can be in those things. And I don't think that Russia is really going to just kind of go along with the talks. So that's the first part. And we have the Nine of Wands here, defending what needs to be defended. Defending your homeland, defending your hill, defending your country, defending your neighbor. So yeah, I think the EU is going to do both. I think they're going to put sanctions on Russia, and I think that they are going to put boots on the ground, although I don't think they're going to make as big of a show out of that, because they don't want to have like World War III. They just want to resist Russia. So the card at the bottom is the Lovers. This is the ultimate card for relationships, right? So the EU has formed, not the EU, but the European leaders have formed relationships with each other. These new leaders have formed relationships with each other, and they're going to follow through with it. And they want the United States to be a part of that relationship. And I heard Keir Starmer in a press briefing, or he was talking to the press, saying that Canada was also a part of this. So Carney is also on board with this. So we have strong relationships with strong countries saying, yeah, we're going to stop this. This has to be stopped. This war is ridiculous. It's hurting everybody. It's wasting money. It's killing people, and we just want the end of it. Now, in the past, what do they have? Betrayal. Now, how many betrayals can we count? I mean, there are betrayals all over the place, right? I'm sorry, I'm looking over here and talking here because that's where I'm seeing my face and the cards. But you are over here, and I'm sorry. So the betrayal, there was so many betrayals. I mean, we won't even get into the betrayals. That's a whole other reading. Okay, and what's on top? Six of Cups, the past. What's going on? Well, in the past, if past is prologue, and it usually is, Russia didn't stop. They just kept going through Europe. They went right into Poland. So why would we not believe that that's going to happen? And that's why the EU wants to stop them, because they don't want that to happen. So then they have the Nine of Swords. They're very worried about this. They don't want to blow up the whole European group of nations, but they do want the war to stop. So you know, they're in a pickle, but hey, they made the demands, and they wouldn't have said that they could do these things if they couldn't follow up on it. Unlike Putin and Trump, they don't just bluster about what they're going to do. They're more democratic countries, and they're more logical like our Democrats are, and so they're more likely to really have the bite to go along with their bark. All right. What are they worried about? Well, they're worried about Dumpy. And they're worried about Putin. They're worried about both of the people who usually are represented by this card. So they're worried about this. They want to control it. They want to do things somewhat carefully, but they also want to stop it. They want to be forceful enough and put enough muscle behind it that they really can stop it. So that's what they're trying to do. What does the world feel? The world is kind of like, okay, well, you got to do this. You got to fight back. You can't let the bullies win. The Five of Swords is the card of the bullies, right? So we don't want to give in to Putin. He's being a bully. Likewise, we don't want Trump to just run the show. So they're going to have a juggling act here. They're going to have to keep control of Trump. I'm having a hard time saying that. Keep control of Trump. Woo! And that's what they're going to try to do. What they're hoping for is to bring it all down, is to bring down the whole pile of jello or house of cards or whatever you see this card as, but the tower. They really do want to shift the whole thing. They want this to be the last big war. They don't want to have any more war in their land, right? So they really want to bring this down. And the final outcome is the star. So they may very well get what they want. They may very well succeed. So I think that's really great. And I think it would coincide with Putin all of a sudden having a severe headache that he laid down, took a nap, and never woke up. Although he might already be in that state now, and the poor guy who is his double right now may have to pretend to die and actually die, and his family may get paid off or whatever, for entertainment purposes only, folks. But yeah, I wouldn't want to be in Russia right now, and I wouldn't want to be any of those guys in the Kremlin. It's just not going to be a good day for them. Okay, the last question that we're going to address is Trump burning all his bridges? And I think I will narrow down the focus to Putin, Musk, just Putin and Musk. That's who I'm going to focus on. Okay, I'll be right back with the cards. Okay, slight change here. This first reading is going to be, is he burning his bridges with Musk? I think I already in the first video did convey that Trump is going to try to burn his bridges with Putin. And so I'm just going to do Musk and the EU. That's what I'm going to focus on. All right, so the first card that jumped out of the deck was the Four of Pentacles. So I think Trump is feeling right now that he just wants to hang on to his own money. Not Musk's money is what I'm getting, is that he wants to have enough money from his crypto, and by the way, he's making a shit ton of money with his crypto. He wants to hang on to his money from his crypto, and also all of his gimmicks and gadgets and knickknacks that he's selling. He's actually doing pretty well with that right now, as is Melania, and the other kids are doing the crypto thing. So I think he feels like he doesn't need Musk's money. That's kind of my impression of what's going on. But I get, similar to some other readings here, we get the Ten of Pentacles. We get the end of something. We get his ending, the legacy. He's worried about the family, his legacy. What does he leave behind? What do people know of him? And he definitely wants to be known as a rich person. So, you know, he's coming towards the end. He's examining his life and what's going on with that. But what crosses that is that he's tired. He's been sick for a very long time. And he really wants to just lay down and rest. But he can't. And it's not his nature to be restful. It's not his nature to just lay down and take a nap. He doesn't sleep well at night. He doesn't like being in bed. And who would want to lay in that diaper thing? You know, I wouldn't. At the bottom of the reading, we have the Knight of Pentacles. So we have someone who is the slow and steady knight. So he doesn't want to do anything to disrupt his wealth. So he's a little reluctant because Elon could do something, but Elon's not giving him money right now. Elon's getting money from the government because Elon's getting the payback for having given him the money and getting the election in the first place. So Donald doesn't need him for that. And truthfully, I feel that Donald is a little upset with him. In the past, we have the King of Wands, King of Action, somebody who really wanted to do things. And even though Elon is a double Cancer, I think this is representing him because he did take a lot of actions that Donald asked him to do, basically. What crowns the reading is the Nine of Cups. And this is usually the, you know, bird in the gilded cage. But here we have a genie with a lamp that he really feels like he's making things happen, baby. He really feels like things are finally happening for me. I'm making all this money. I may be almost 80, but I'm really king of the world now. It's like, geez, dude, it took you long enough. So, you know, that may be his thing. And the reason I'm kind of making fun of it is because the follow-up card here is the Seven of Cups, which is illusion and delusion. So he's, you know, cuckoo bananas here. He is deluding himself into thinking that he is all that in a cup of tea. He's the king. He's the king maker. He can do anything. He can do no wrong. He can bring about world peace. I mean, he really thinks all of these things about himself because he's really friggin' deluded. Was he worried about? He's worried about someone busting him and somebody coming out with the truth and telling the world where he's really at. That he, you know, who knows what kind of money, how did he find money to invest in the initial crypto to make the other money? Where did that money come from? What do other people think? They think he's just doing things rashly without thinking. He doesn't really use any logic or sound advice. He just kind of does things on an impulse and a whim. And while that's not really the Knight of Swords, the hastiness and the impulsiveness is the Knight of Swords. What's hopeful here? Well, he hopes that he and Elon can still be friends. I mean, what is it with these narcissists? They really have this thing about, are you really my friend? So that's how he's feeling about Elon. He still wants to be friends. Just get the fuck out of the government, okay? It's really bad. Because, Elon's not going to go quietly. He's a double Cancer. He's going to take extreme offense to it, and he's going to be moody and bitchy and take it out on Donald. And in fact, the last card is the Seven of Wands. And so here's the guy, kind of fighting the next battle. He's defending his hill. He's been there all day. Look at, he has 2 different shoes on. I mean, it's not fun. Even though he has the wings of a fairy or a bee or a butterfly, he's working hard. He's really working hard. So this is not a restful thing for Donald, but yeah, I think he's really trying to get rid of Elon. I think this is him trying to fight him off and get him out of there, because it's no bueno for him with Elon around. That's just not good. Not good at all. Okay, now I'm going to do a quick reading with to just see is he trying to break ranks with the EU? Is he trying to piss them off and go off on his own? I mean, because hello, tariffs, that's not cool, but whatever. All right, so I'll be right back. I love tarot cards. When they try to tell you something, they really do tell you, but it's up to you to interpret the cards, which is sometimes easy, sometimes hard. All right, so the card that jumped out of the deck is the 8 of Swords. 8 of Swords, folks. So here we are. This kind of typifies what's going on with his relationship with the EU. He feels bound. He feels like he is bound to them, like he can't give it up. So, that's the Reader's Digest short version of the reading, is that no, he can't. He feels he cannot break up with them. But let's go through the cards anyway. So he starts with the Nine of Wands, rather. He has to defend his territory, his property, his legacy, his actions. He has to defend everything. So finally, he's doing a little bit of work as the president. He's finally having to work just a little bit in order to keep everything copacetic. What crosses it is the Emperor. Now, interestingly, he is not the Emperor in this reading. Somebody else is. And I don't think it's Putin, because we're talking about the EU. So whoever the Emperor is, whoever is the ringleader of this, and I'm going to say it's probably Macron, because he's the longest standing of the leaders right now. All the rest of them are very newly elected. So I'm going to say Macron is the emperor of this group, is the real guy who's saying, no, it's got to be this way, Donald. So that's the one that he has to work with. And that's his cross to bear, as it were. Now, at the base of it is the money. So he does know that the tariffs have a lot to do with sour tastes in their mouths, right? Because the tariffs are not cool. But he doesn't care so much about that. And honestly, is he even connecting the dots? I don't know. The man is half gone in the brain, so who knows what's going on with that. But he wants to hang on to his money. He wants to have his cool stuff. And he wants his legacy. He wants to be known as the peacemaker and get that Nobel Peace Prize. But he also wants to make all these other deals all over the world so that he makes more and more and more money. It's never enough. Like, I don't know where all this money is going to go. I don't know how many golden toilets you can have, but he wants them for some reason. Now, what's in the past? In the past is the King of Cups, and that would have been Joe Biden. So in the past, he just wanted to be better than Joe Biden, or be seen as a better leader than Joe Biden, or just better looking than Joe Biden. I mean, just anything better than Joe Biden and Obama, but, most recently Joe Biden. So that's what that is about. And on top of the reading, what crowns him is the Ten of Wands. So he's going to work hard for this. Not only is he not going to piss off the EU leaders, he's going to work hard. He's actually going to work at trying to make this deal really come to pass. And then we get the Hanged Man in his future. So he's going to try, but then he's going to have to either acknowledge some kind of different perspective or scenario that's going on there, or he's just the talks or whatever is going on are just stalled in some way. Well, Mercury does go retrograde in June, but I think that's a ways away. All right, what is he afraid of? Putin. Putin's the devil here. He's not the devil here because we're talking about him and his relationship with the EU. He is worried about Putin, and if he has dissed Putin and he has tried to cut off ties with Putin, Putin's not going to take that lightly. Trump's going to have to really worry about what they put in his Diet Coke, and he's going to have to stay away from windows because Putin's not going to be happy unless Putin and the Kremlin is just like, he's a lost cause, whatever. They might do that. Now, the world sees this as a kind of Pyrrhic victory. I mean, like, we don't love Donald Trump, but we surely want him on our side, not against us, because he's so chaotic. He could really throw a wrench in the works. So the world reluctantly accepts him as a victor. And so this is also telling me that they're going to be schmoozing him and shining him on and, placating him and complimenting him, praising him, making him feel better so that he doesn't make any trouble. What does he hope? He hopes that Russia doesn't kill him. He really just hopes that Russia doesn't do him in. So, sorry, entertainment purposes only. And then the final outcome is the same card as we had before, the Seven of Wands. So he is going to be working his patuchas off, trying to make this work. You got the 10 of Wands and the 7 of Wands. This guy actually, sincerely, is going to be pushing for the EU being successful. I'm amazed. So if Putin doesn't get him, then I think we'll be okay. I think things are going to work out better for Ukraine than we could have hoped. And God damn it, Trump is actually going to try to stop the war. Who knew? Who knew this could happen? I'm as surprised as y'all are. Okay, that's it. It's way too late here. It's a school night. I got to get to bed. I'm going to have to edit these videos tomorrow and get them up. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe. I love all of you. I love my members and subscribers. I am going to have a members meeting soon. I know I missed last month, but that's kind of my deal, is about like every other month because I'm just way too busy. Once I get everything the new website is up, and I am doing memberships on my website. So if you want to go over there, that will be a site where I will really be doing members meetings. And actually, eventually, I'm going to be closing down the YouTube membership, but I want you all to go over to the Cool Crone and do those memberships. I think they're even cheaper than the ones on the YouTube. So go ahead and do that, and I will see you next time I'm live in the chat. Thanks, guys. See you later. Bye.